The hot stove is heating up. Let's break it down next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. Today is Thursday, November 17th. I am Frank Sanford, joined by Scott White, and let's talk about the big trade from Wednesday. Teoscar Hernandez traded to the Mariners in exchange for reliever Eric Swanson and left-handed pitching prospect Adam Macko. Initial takeaway was that the return was pretty light for the Blue Jays in this one. Teoscar Hernandez, still a very productive player. 1 year left in terms of team control, so entering a contract year here, Scott. And I think he's going to be just fine. You look at the StatCast numbers, he would have hit 31 home runs if he played all of his games in T-Mobile Park. I think he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I think so too. It seems like a dramatic venue shift. T-Mobile Park isn't known for being a great place to hit. Rogers Center is. But Rogers Center's kind of becoming not so much that anymore since the introduction of the humidor, actually a year earlier than most every other team, 2021. We've seen offensive production decline in Toronto. So Teoscar Hernandez has already been exposed to an environment that's not so dissimilar from Seattle. And yeah, his quality of contact numbers suggests he should perform pretty well anywhere. It was kind of a down year for him, 807 OPS overall. But over the final 4 months, when the weather warmed up, it was an 867 OPS that Hernandez had. That's compared to 870 in 2021, which most people would say was his career season. And there's a good chance the stolen bases bounce back too, just because of some rule changes that are happening to encourage more of those. So I think his value basically holds with this move from Toronto to Seattle. It's more likely stock down slightly than stock up slightly, but not enough for me to really downgrade Hernandez.
All right. Well, this isn't a signing or a trade, but it is massive for fantasy. Bryce Harper will have surgery to repair the UCL in his elbow next week. We're not exactly sure which surgery he's having. If it's Tommy John, we might not see him until June at the earliest. If he has this shorter operation, internal brace repair, which his teammate Rhys Hoskins had, then potentially we only miss a few games, maybe the first month of the season, something like that. Scott, there's a lot of unknown, but this is huge for fantasy because it sounds like regardless, Bryce Harper is going to miss time.
Yeah, and I think what I'm seeing on Twitter among fantasy baseballers is the attitude seems a little too sanguine about this. I think the more likely scenario is Tommy John, and if it is Tommy John, it could be half the season that Bryce Harper misses. Shohei Ohtani was about as quick of a return as we've seen a hitter make from that procedure. But it was still 7 months. It was still early October. He had the surgery. Early May the next year, he was back playing DH. And Harper, it's going to be late November that he would have it. So that would translate to late June if he meets that timeline, and late June is basically half the season's over. And again, that's only if things go as well as they did for Ohtani. It's possible that it is more of this half measure, similar to what Harper's teammate Rhys Hoskins had a couple years ago. But even in that case, it sounds like the Phillies are bracing to do without Harper at the start of 2023. And if it ends up being Tommy John, I think I'd have a hard time drafting Harper among the top 100 players. Like that's it. You're just not going to get enough. You have to wait too long to get anything out of him. And yeah, I wouldn't want to overpay for it. But if it ends up being a lesser version of that, okay, maybe in the top 50 players, they'll still be worth taking. But I'm betting against that being how this ultimately plays out right now.
All right. Well, we do have a few signings. Anthony Rizzo headed back to the Yankees on a 2-year deal, and Tyler Anderson is going to the Angels on a 3-year deal. Scott, it seems like early ADP. We don't have many drafts yet, but the early inclination is that both of these guys are undervalued at their respective positions. Anthony Rizzo going around pick 166 as the 16th first baseman off the board, and Tyler Anderson is outside of the top 250. So the early lean is that both of these guys are undervalued.
Yeah, I have them ranked higher than that, both of them. I mean, the price on Tyler Anderson is so low that I imagine he's going to be a guy I'm drafting a lot to fill out my pitching staff. He won 15 games with a 2.57 ERA. Why not? He changed his changeup grip. It became an elite pitch. Didn't have a ton of strikeouts because of it. And you do worry somebody leaving the Dodgers, not having that sort of oversight. Could he regress? It's certainly possible, but the price is so low. Why not take a chance on him? And some of the ERA estimators liked him last year too. xERA specifically, 3.10 for Tyler Anderson. And then as for Rizzo, I kind of saw this season as a rebound season for him. First 30 homer season since 2017, I believe. There was a trade-off with batting average because of that. He really tailored his swing for Yankee Stadium, put the ball in the air a ton, ended up hitting 224 with all those homers. But with the infield shifts being greatly reduced next year, I think it's more likely than not Rizzo gets back to being at least a 240 hitter. And with if there's 30 plus home runs to go along with it, that sounds like a quality starter in fantasy to me.
For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, your smart speakers, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. We'll be back again on Saturday morning. Bye-bye.